You've been given a task to assassinate a man at any cost. You don't know his name, only that he was once one of you, and that he betrayed the truth. You've been trained for this. To kill without hesitation, to leave no shadow behind. You gave your life to the order, the day you arrived at the gates of Alamut. Everything that came before that moment, your name, your family, your doubts, died there. If it costs you your life, so be it. Tonight, you'll climb the walls of a palace while the guards sleep. You'll blend into markets, vanish into alleys, read faces, listen through walls, and wait in silence until the time is right. And when the time comes, you will strike with perfect precision. You will do what must be done. But before you carry out your first mission, you must survive the training that breaks the weak. This is not a story about heroes. This is a story about belief, what it costs, and what it demands. If you're drawn to stories that drop you inside the skin of history, real events, real places, told like you were there, I'd really appreciate a like or a subscribe. It helps this kind of content keep going. And I'm always curious, where are you listening from? What time is it there? Let me know in the comments. I read every one. Now sit still. Breathe slowly. Let your body sink into stillness as we begin. You are in Persia. It is the year 1092, and your life, your real life, is just beginning. You wake before the sun. The stone beneath your body is cold, but you've grown used to it. You slept on the floor by choice, as the masters instructed. There are no beds at Alamut. For novices, no pillows, no comfort. Sleep is not a reward, it is a calculation. Exactly 4 hours. No more, no less. Any longer, and you are considered weak. Any shorter, reckless. Your eyes open into darkness. Outside, you hear wind through the pine trees that line the cliffs below the fortress. You can't see them, but you've felt their needles when kneeling in the garden. One of the early tests. Bare knees, silent prayer. An hour in the dark, every scratch, a lesson in silence. The others around you are already waking. You hear fabric shift, quiet footsteps, no words. Speech before sunrise is forbidden. You dress quickly. The robe is simple. Undyed wool, worn thin at the elbows, a leather belt. No ornament, no symbol, not yet. Those are earned. You step into the hallway and fall into line behind the others. 40 initiates, all silent, all facing forward. You do not know their names. Names are withheld until the first year is complete, to reduce attachment, to reduce betrayal. You descend the inner stairs to the ablution chamber. Cold water in copper basins, one splash to the face, one over the head, one to each arm. Cleansing, not for the body, for the mind. You've done this every morning, for 63 days. The elder waiting at the bottom of the steps says nothing. He watches. His eyes are clouded from age, but he misses nothing. Once the final initiate steps away from the basin, he lifts a lantern. You follow him in single file, down the outer corridor, through the passage that leads into the mountain. The air grows colder, moister. The stone under your feet shifts from brick to rough-cut earth. You are entering the core of Alamut, the heart of the order. The tunnel opens into a wide hall carved directly into the mountain's spine. No windows, no echo. The walls are lined with shelves, scrolls, maps, blades, artifacts from across the known world, gifts, prizes, evidence. In the center of the room sits a single figure on a raised platform, cross-legged, perfectly still. His beard is long and black, streaked with silver. His robe is dark crimson, the only color in the chamber. His hands are folded in his lap. This is the Grand Master, Hashashin Saba. He does not move as you enter. You do not look directly at him. You kneel, as one, He speaks only once. Today, you will climb the west wall. If your body fails, you will fall. If your mind fails, you will hesitate. If your heart fails, you will not be called back. Then silence. You stand. The lantern bearer turns. You follow. Out through the opposite tunnel, up narrow stairs, into the chill air of dawn. The west wall of Alamut is not a wall at all. It is a vertical cliff, hundreds of feet tall. A sheer drop into the mist-covered forests below. No ropes, no handholds. Just ledges, carved long ago, narrow and irregular. The test is simple. Climb. No one tells you how high. No one tells you where to stop. Only that if you fall, you will not be mourned. The first initiate steps forward. He does not hesitate. His hands grip the stone. His foot finds a ledge. He begins. The second follows, then the third. You are the 22nd in line. Your turn comes. You step to the edge and look up. The cliff stretches into pale morning fog. Your fingers touch the stone. Rough, cold, but solid. You climb. Each move is deliberate. Hand, foot, breath. The wind pulls at your robe. The stone flakes beneath your nails. A sparrow darts past your face, startling you, and for a moment, you lose focus. You press your chest to the wall. Breathe. Slow. Then keep moving. You pass ledges slick, with moss. You pass dried blood. You pass a small bundle. Cloth caught on a rock. It was once white. You don't press to stop to wonder who it belonged to. You reach a shelf wide enough to stand. You stop. You wait. 10 breaths. A call from below. Return. You descend slower than you climbed. When you reach the ground, the elder says nothing. He marks something on the parchment in his hand. By midday, 3 initiates have fallen. No one speaks of them. By sunset, you are back in the lower hall. Legs shaking from exertion. Lips cracked from the dry wind. The elder reads your name aloud for the first time in weeks. You are one of those who climbed. You will remain. That night, as you lie again on the stone floor, you feel the blood pounding behind your eyes, not from pain, from certainty. You survived what others could not, and you are only beginning. Morning begins again with silence. You are pulled from sleep by the sound of a wooden staff tapping stone. 3 quick raps, then footsteps retreating down the corridor. You rise without hesitation. Your legs are sore, your arms heavy, but you do not pause. Pain is not an excuse. Not here. You wrap your robe, tie your belt, and step into the hall. There is no talking, not even a glance exchanged. The others around you are just shapes moving through shadow. 40 of you entered the first trial. 37 remain. You make your way to the courtyard, where the wind cuts harder. The air smells of cedar and burnt oil. Lanterns flicker above the doors. The courtyard is lined with gravel, coarse white stone dragged up the mountain by hand decades ago. It crunches beneath your feet. Today is a combat day. You are handed a wooden training blade. It's weighted, dulled, but still capable of bruising bone. You've held it so many times now that it feels like part of your body. The grip worn smooth by hours of drills. You form a line. The elder walks past slowly, marking pairs. He points at you, then at another boy. Shorter, wiry, a half-second quicker than most. You nod once. The match begins on the sound of a bell. He lunges. You parry. Wood cracks against wood. He follows through with a kick that catches your ribs. You absorb it, rotate, and counter with a sharp elbow that lands just beneath his jaw. You both stumble. You both reset. No pause. This is not about victory. It's stuff's about control. You trade strikes for nearly a full minute. Your blade snaps in half from the force of a block. You finish the match with your bare hands, disarming him and dropping him to one knee before the bell sounds again. The elder marks your name. Use B past another test. The others are not so fortunate. One breaks his ankle, two are too slow, one swings wildly, and is pulled from the yard by two instructors, and never seen again. You say nothing. You watch. You learn. That night, you are assigned to kitchen duty, not as punishment, as ritual. Those who pass combat serve those who fail, a reminder that strength is temporary. You stand over a pot of lentils, stirring with a wooden spoon. The boy beside you has blood on his lip and doesn't meet your gaze. You hand him a bowl. He nods once. That is the extent of your bond. There are no friendships here, only the order. Later, while cleaning, you are summoned, not by name. No one uses names, only a gesture, a motion of the hand from a hooded figure in the corridor. You follow, down a narrow stair, through a hall, lit only by oil lamps, into a small chamber where two figures wait, one sitting, one standing. The seated figure is a woman, older than your mother would have been, had she lived. Her eyes are dark, her hands steady. The man beside her wears a crimson sash. Neither speaks. They place an object on the table, a vial of liquid, opaque, pale, swirling slightly, though the air is still. Drink, the woman says. You hesitate. Do you fear death? She asks. No. You reply. Good, she says. Then fear what comes after. You lift the vial. The glass is warm. You tilt it back. The liquid tastes like dust and ash, and something bitter you can't describe. It hits your stomach like cold metal. Moments pass, then the world shifts. Not violently, slowly, like mist curling through a forest. Your vision narrows, sounds blur. You feel your body dissolve into silence, and then you are not in the room. You are standing in a garden, but the sky is black. Stars burn brighter than they should. The trees sway in no wind. Insects hum in reverse. Time bends sideways. You feel weightless. A voice speaks. Not from a person, from the space around you. There is no self, only the blade. There is no fear, only the moment. You feel something pressing against your chest. Not a hand, but an idea. It pushes, and you fall backward. You sink through soil, through stone, through the mountain itself. And then, you wake, back in the chamber. The woman watches you. The man hasn't moved. She speaks again. You have seen the veil. Most break when they do. You did not. You will remember. You rise unsteadily. You are now marked. She hands you a stone medallion, smooth, flat, carved with the symbol of the order, the dagger, and the eye. You place it around your neck. You are dismissed. When you step back into the corridor, it is dusk. You have been gone for 13 hours. No one speaks to you as you return to your quarters. No one asks what you saw, but they see the medallion, and they step out of your way. That night, sleep does not come easily. Every time you close your eyes, the stars burn too bright. You hear the reverse whisper of leaves. You feel the blade press against the space between who you were and who you are becoming. Your training will continue tomorrow, but something has already changed. You have stepped through the first veil. You will never fully return. The next month is a blur of motion. You rise before the sun. You run the perimeter of the mountain barefoot. You carry stones in baskets across uneven paths. You memorize texts in 3 languages: Persian, Arabic, Latin. You are made to fight with your eyes covered, to listen for footsteps in sand, to sleep on command and wake in seconds. You are taught to break bone with a stick of wood, to crush windpipes with your knee, to disarm, disable, disappear. You are given a knife, not for training, not wood, steel, curved, single-edged, with a handle wrapped in black leather. It is not ceremonial. It is not for show. You are expected to use it. Your instructor is a man whose name no one speaks aloud. He is missing 3 fingers. His right eye is white. No pupil, no blink. You watch him kill a goat with a flick of the wrist, just to show how quiet death can be. He teaches you how to move through cities, not forests, not cliffs, cities. You learn to blend, to mirror the gait of a merchant, to speak with a stammer when passing soldiers, to feign drunkenness in a crowd, hiding your blade under a cloak. You walk through the market 3 times a day without being noticed. You listen to vendors haggle over lemons while tracking 4 men at once. You report back what they wore, how they walked, which hand they favored. One day the instructor pulls you aside. You've been observed by someone higher. A test is coming, but not a trial of strength, a trial of judgment. That night, you are summoned again, this time by a boy no older than 12. He says nothing, just walks ahead of you down a stone path behind the eastern tower. You follow. The path leads to a locked wooden gate. He produces a key. The lock clicks. Inside is a stairwell that descends sharply into the rock. You go down 50 steps, then 50 more. Then the air changes. The smell of earth is replaced by oil and wax. A single torch lights the chamber ahead. 3 people wait inside. One is a man in fine robes, golden threaded, with rings on each finger. He does not look like a master of the order. The second is a woman in a dark veil. She holds a scroll and says nothing. The third is seated, younger, pale, hands bound, eyes bruised. The man in fine robes speaks. The boy was caught leaving the fortress under false pretenses. He claims he was retrieving something left behind. The guards say he crossed the outer wall, that he meant to escape. He gestures to the bound boy. You are to determine the truth. You blink. No instruction. No hint. Just silence. You kneel beside the boy. His face is familiar. You trained beside him. He stood next to you during weapons drill. You never spoke, but you remember how he favored his left leg. You ask him what happened. His voice is dry. I went back for a talisman. My father sets. I dropped it when we arrived. I meant to return before sunrise. Why didn't Set you report it? I didn't think they'd allow it. I thought I could do it quickly. I didn't Set run. The man behind you scoffs. You have your answer, he says. He broke the code. You look at the woman with the scroll, still silent. The decision is yours. The blade is already in your hand. You could strike. One motion. Clean. Or you could speak, argue, ask for mercy. But you know what they Set were really testing? Not your loyalty, your mind. You stand. You face the man in the robes. I recommend leniency, you say. Not mercy. A consequence without execution. Amputation, perhaps. Or permanent marking. He narrows his eyes. Explain. If he meant to flee, he would not have returned. If he meant betrayal, he would not have carried his father Sip's talisman. He is guilty of arrogance, not treason. The woman with the scroll speaks for the first time. Noted. The guards step forward. The boy is removed. The man in robes watches you for a long time. You are not soft, he says. You are calculating. That is better. He turns to go. You may return to training. The woman hands you a folded note. Inside is a single sentence, written in Persian. The blade that hesitates must know why it waits. You burn the note before leaving the chamber. The next morning, your name is marked on a different list, the assignment list. No longer a novice. You are now among the Fida Fedi, a word that means one who sacrifices. Your robe is changed. The belt darkened, a leather pouch added to your side. Empty for now, it will carry messages, tools, or poisons. You are brought before a tall man with a hawk tattoo on his neck. His voice is calm. You will leave tomorrow at dawn, he says. You will not wear your robe. You will not speak of Alamut. You are no longer a student. You are a shadow. You ask nothing. You nod. He hands you a small wooden box, sealed with wax. You are not to open it until you reach your destination. The place is written on a slip of parchment. You read it once. Burn it in the candle flame. You spend the rest of the night in silence, packing nothing. You've been taught to live off the land, to speak only when needed, to vanish when seen. When morning comes, you are led to the eastern pass by two men on horseback. They do not speak. At the ridge, one of them stops and gestures toward the trail. You walk. No farewell. No blessing. Just mist curling through the pines behind you, swallowing the fortress from view. You walk for 2 days, down the mountains, across a dry riverbed, through villages where children point at your bare feet and wide eyes. You do not sleep indoors. You do not light fires. On the 3rd day, you arrive at the place marked on the slip, a town with mud walls and an old mosque, a market, 3 alleys, 1 well. You enter the tea house just before sunset. The box is still in your pack. You sit. Wait. A man approaches. He has a long beard and a merchant's robe. He pretends to read. Then he taps the table twice. That is the signal. You nod. He leaves. You check under your table. A parcel. You wait 10 minutes. Then retrieve it. Inside, wrapped in linen, is a letter and a single glove. The letter names your target. The glove is not yours. It is his. You are told to return it to him, not with your hand, with your blade. You sleep in the loft of an abandoned olive store, surrounded by dust and stone. The letter is folded beneath your mat. You've read it 5 times. Each time, the words seem sharper, shorter, written in a hand that favors clarity over poetry. The instructions are exact. The target's name, his face, where he sleeps, where he eats, the path he takes through the market each day before mid-afternoon prayers. He was once part of the order, not one of the Fidei, but a scribe, a scholar assigned to the lower library at Alamut. He left under sanction permitted departure, not exile, but 3 months later, he began to speak. Not loudly, not in public, quiet suggestions, comments whispered to imams, warnings to judges, ideas that spread like disease. He says the order is no longer righteous, that it twists the law, that it poisons cities, corrupts kings, misuses God's name. You are here to make his voice stop. The next morning, you follow him through the square. He moves like someone used to watching his back. He pauses often, adjusts his satchel, scans the crowd, but not expertly, just nervously. He buys dates from a stall, greets a woman with a nod, speaks to no one else. You keep your distance. You've been taught how to trail without leaving trace. You stop often, change direction, tie your sandals, examine fruit you won't buy. You wear a plain robe, dyed with dust, unremarkable. By the time he reaches the shade of the mosque courtyard, you've memorized how he walks, the slight limp on his right, the way he favors the wall side of the street, the cut of his beard. He enters a house near the fountain, a small wooden door, unmarked. You walk past it twice. The back window is high, too narrow for a man, but not too narrow for your knife. You wait until night. The town quiets early. Oil lamps dim. The wind cools the stone. You wrap your face in cloth, not to hide your identity, but to hide your breath. You've been trained to move without sound, to pass within inches of a sleeping dog without waking it. You scale the wall behind the house. A rusted bracket gives you a foothold. A crack in the stone leads you to the roof. The window is there, just as you saw. Inside, the room is dark, but you can see. He is asleep on a mat, facing the wall. A candle still flickers on a shelf. You do not hesitate. You slide your blade from its sheath. You lower yourself into the room. You step once, twice. The floor creaks. His eyes open. You freeze. He turns slowly. No scream. No sudden movement. Only recognition. I was wondering how long it would take, he says quietly. You don't speak. He pushes himself upright. No resistance. No plea. He nods once. They told me it would be like this. Quiet. Clean. A whisper before the wind. Still. You say nothing. You move forward. The blade enters without force. He exhales, like a man letting go of the last breath he owed the world. He slumps sideways. The candle flickers once, then steadies. You pull the glove from your pouch. Place it beside him. His glove. Returned. The message is complete. You leave the way you came, over the wall, through the alley, into the mist. You are not followed. You speak to no one. You vanish. 3 days later, you return to Alamut. No one greets you. You walk the path alone, your feet remembering every stone. At the inner gate, you place the token, his glove, now marked with a cut. On the altar by the fire pit, a hand takes it from the shadows. No words are exchanged. That night, you are summoned again. The same elder, the same corridor. He leads you not to a chamber, but to the garden. The moon is high. Hashashin is waiting beneath the cedar tree. He sits on a stone bench, hood lowered, hand still. You kneel. He speaks without looking at you. You did not ask why he was chosen. No, you answer. Why? Because I trust the blade only after the mind is clear. He turns to you. And is yours clear? Yes. Then you may stay. He stands, begins to walk away, then pauses. He was not wrong, you know. You don't respond. He continues. He believed the order had changed. He was right. We are always changing. That is survival. He looks back at you. But change without obedience is just rebellion. He vanishes into the trees. You kneel there for some time. The stars overhead are steady. You feel no guilt, no sorrow, only stillness. And something else. Purpose. The next weeks are filled with silence. You train differently now, no longer in groups. Always alone, assigned private hours in the library, sparring in the dark, poison mixing in the cellar. You are taught how to break a lock using heat, how to kill without spilling blood, how to make someone vanish without leaving a body. You are sent on 2 more missions, one to intercept a messenger riding toward Baghdad, the second to plant a false letter in the satchel of a judge's servant. Both succeed. You return without injury, without question. One morning, a parchment arrives at your door. 3 words. You are ready. You are led once again to the Grand Master's garden. He places a hand on your shoulder. You are now the knife in our hand, he says. You will go where the sword cannot, where fear cannot, where truth itself dares not tread. You lower your head. You will leave at dawn. Westward, to Syria. He presses a coin into your hand. On one side, the symbol of the order. On the other, a falcon. It is not for spending. It is for passage. He walks away, and you remain kneeling, feeling the edge of the coin bite into your palm. You will go west, beyond the lands you know, into war, into chaos, into history. You leave Alamut before sunrise. No escort, no ceremony, just a mule with supplies, the clothes on your back, and the coin pressed into your palm by the Grand Master. The falcon on one side gleams faintly in the early light. You keep it in your sleeve, close to the skin. A sign, a pass, a warning. The road west is narrow, worn by traders, patrolled by no one. For the first few days, you see no one. Only hills, dry riverbeds, birds overhead, silent as shadows. You sleep under thorn trees. Eat dried dates, black bread, drink from streams when you find them. Your thoughts remain still. You do not dwell on Alamut or the man you killed. You do not wonder what awaits you. You observe. By the 6th day, the land begins to change. Villages cluster closer together. The air grows warmer. You hear voices echoing in valleys, see shepherds moving among the hills. People speak Arabic now, not Persian. On the 9th day, you reach a crossroads. There is a stone marker, half buried. The writing is faded, but you can still read the name Aleppo. You turn south. By dusk, the walls come into view. High, thick, stained with smoke. Aleppo is a city of merchants and soldiers. You feel it before you see it. The scent of animals and iron, the sound of shouts and distant music. A hum beneath the surface. You do not enter through the main gate. You follow a small trail that curves behind the wall, then wait until the patrols change. You climb the side of a stable, cross 2 rooftops, and drop silently into the market. No one sees you. You blend. Within an hour, you've mapped half the district in your head. You know where the guards rest, where the merchants sleep, where the lanterns burn all night. You find the bathhouse with the painted tiles, the well with the cracked rim, the alley that stinks of copper and blood. That Sep's where you wait. The man you were sent to meet arrives at midnight. He's wrapped in black, limping slightly. His beard is gray, but trimmed. His eyes flick once across your face, then away. He hands you a wrapped scroll. You wait until Sep's gone before opening it. A name, a title, a pattern. The man you're here to kill is not a rebel, not a runaway. Sep's a governor, a Seljuk loyalist, a warlord in all but name. He controls the eastern gate, taxes the caravans, has begun imprisoning scholars suspected of sympathizing with the Fatimids. Last week, he hanged 3 men without trial. You memorize the scroll, then burn it. The message is clear. Remove him, publicly. You scout the palace from a rooftop 2 nights later. White walls, latticed windows, inner courtyard guarded by 12 men, rotating in pairs. You count their steps, time their shifts, watch when they eat, where they rest, who they trust. The governor is a creature of routine. He prays at dawn. He drinks wine at dusk. He walks in his garden. After the second call to prayer, always alone, always to the far end near the cypress tree. That is where you will wait. You enter through the water channel, the aqueduct tunnels beneath the palace walls. Dry this season but still accessible. You crawl 30 feet in pitch dark, guided only by touch and breath. You emerge in the bathhouse. You change into a servant's robe stolen from the drying line the night before. You walk past 3 guards. No one stops you. You carry an empty jug and a slow gait. You pass into the garden without a sound. He is already walking, alone. He doesn't hear you approach. You are behind him before his foot falls a second time. You move quickly, not with a blade, but with your hands. an arm around the neck. A twist, a pull. His body folds backward with a soft thud. You lower him gently. The poison-coated needle in your ring leaves no mark. He is dead before he touches the ground. You leave the jug behind. The message is clear. This was deliberate, clean, precise, not the work of a thief. The city wakes to confusion. No sign of struggle. No wound. No blood. Only silence. Only fear. You are already gone. By dawn, you are riding west, toward the coast. Your next destination is not a city. It is a castle. Small, fortified, nestled in the mountains above Tripoli. You arrive at dusk on the 12th day. A banner hangs above the gate, red with a black circle at its center. You are expected. The guards say nothing. One leads you to a stone room lit by a single lamp. Inside sits a woman with ink-stained fingers. She does not look at you, only hands you a sealed letter. You take it without question. It is not written for you. It is to be delivered north, to Antioch, a crusader city, Frankish held, Christian ruled. You are to enter without revealing yourself, without revealing the order. The letter is for a merchant, one who trades in relics and rumors. He has information the order needs. You change your clothing, your accent, your posture. You become a pilgrim. You carry a staff, a copy of the gospel in Latin, a pouch of copper coins to bribe your way past the gate guards. You walk for 6 days, through valleys that still carry the bones of war, into streets where the language is strange, and the eyes are suspicious. But no one stops you. In Antioch, the buildings are taller, the church is loud, the scent of roasting meat mixes with incense and sweat. You find the merchant on the 3rd day. He lives above a shop that sells parchment and crucifixes. He is old, blind in one eye, but sharp. You speak in broken Latin. He tests you. You pass. He takes the letter, reads it in silence, then burns it in a brass bowl. He does not speak again, only nods. He gives you a small leather case. You return south that night. You never learn what was in the letter, or in the case. You don't need to. You deliver both. That is your purpose. That is your place. You are no longer just an initiate. You are a tool, a message, a shadow in the wind. And the world is only beginning to learn your name. The year turns, winter fades, and you do not return to Alamut. You remain in the west, moving between fortresses, safe houses, forests, and cities. You walk in silence. You listen in markets. You sleep in towers, in gutters, in caves. You wake when the stars are still out and move by starlight, not schedule. You forget the shape of comfort. You learn to speak with your eyes instead of your mouth. You learn when to stay hidden and when to be seen, when to look like prey, when to appear useful, when to disappear. You carry no name. You have no rank. You leave no mark, except the space your target no longer fills. You are sent to Hama to watch a priest. You are sent to Damascus to intercept a scroll. You are sent to Latakia to poison a man's horse, so he misses a meeting that would have saved his life. You are not asked to understand the reasons, only the timing. Sometimes the blade does not strike. Sometimes the threat of it is enough. There is power in knowing you could end a life, and choosing not to. The Order understands this. Your silence becomes part of the message. In one city you are ordered to let your presence be known. You wear white. You walk past the palace gate 3 times in one day. You enter the mosque. You pray alone, facing the wall. When the judge sees you, he pretends not to, but he leaves town that night and never returns. It is not always blood that makes history move. It is fear, and the direction it flows. One night, in a fortress carved into a cliff near Masyaf, a young initiate is brought to you. He stares at the ground, thin, nervous. But there is something behind his eyes. They ask you to train him, just for a week. You don't speak much. You show him how to climb using his shoulders, not his feet. How to follow someone through a crowd, using reflections in windows. How to enter a locked room using only thread and smoke. He listens, learns, but one day, he hesitates. You stir sparring. Wooden blades. He has an opening. You leave it on purpose. He sees it, then pulls back. You stop. Ask him why. I don't want to hurt you, he says. You look at him for a long time. You once day get the chance again, you say, and you leave him there. You never learn if he graduates. You are called again to the coast. A man has arrived from across the sea. Norman. French. Tall. Blonde. A crusader knight, who now serves a merchant prince. He was once captured, ransomed, returned. Now he's back in the Holy Land, bearing messages between cities, acting as an unofficial envoy for a group of knights that call themselves holy. But he is not holy. He is a spy, a swordsman, and a whisperer of war. He has been convincing leaders, Muslim and Christian, to turn against the order. He has spoken to Seljuk governors and crusader kings alike, always with poison on his tongue. He must be stopped, not quietly. You are told to strike during a feast, in daylight, with witnesses. The city is Tyre. The palace sits near the harbor wall, guards at every entrance. You scout the area 3 days before the feast. You learn the guard schedule, the kitchen rotations. You find the ladder behind the armory, the trapdoor above the chamber hall. You wait. The day of the feast arrives. Nobles and warriors arrive, dressed in colored silks and polished mail. You are already inside, dressed as a torchbearer, a role taken from a real servant, now sleeping peacefully in a cellar, thanks to the powder in his tea. You walk the upper passage, torch in hand. The envoy is below, seated in the guest circle, laughing, loud. Your blade is strapped flat across your back, hidden beneath the folds of your robe. At the cue, a bell rung for the 4th toast. You move. You leap from the balcony, land behind him, draw the blade in one motion. He turns too late. The blade cuts deep, between shoulder and spine. He falls forward, gasping. You do not run. You stand over him, raise the blade, then let it fall once more, cleanly. Only then do you disappear, not in panic, in precision. You are gone before the first guards reach the table. That night, the city burns torches until dawn. They hunt shadows, but they do not find you. You are already at sea, taken out by a fisher's boat, whose captain was paid years ago for a favor that only now came due. Back on land, word spreads, not just of the death, but of the message. No matter how far, how guarded, how public, the blade of the mountain will reach you, and it will not ask your permission. You return briefly to a stronghold above Baalbek. There, the masters inform you of what espids to come. War is spreading. Franks, in the north. Turks, from the east. Fatimid loyalties cracking. Rumors of betrayal inside the walls of Alamut itself. Something is shifting. The Grand Master has not left the mountain in 2 years. Some say he is dying. Some say he is watching. Your orders are clear. You are to travel east again, beyond Aleppo, toward Mosul, to deliver a sealed message. You will not read it. You will not ask why, but you are told, if it fails to reach its recipient, hundreds may die, and the order may fall. You take no horse, only a cloak, a knife, and a coin pressed into your hand by the master scribe. A different coin, newly struck. On one side, the dagger and the eye. On the other, A mountain. You feel its weight in your pocket as you begin walking east. You do not know yet that this journey will change everything, that it will make you question what you've given your life to, that it will lead to the death of a leader, then the rise of something darker. You leave Baalbek before first light. You carry no flag, no sign of allegiance. Only the sealed letter tucked inside your cloak, and the mountain coin pressed to your palm whenever your grip begins to falter. The road to Mosul is dust and broken stone. No caravans take this route unless they're desperate. The terrain is unkind. Steep ridges, sudden gullies, dry wells. You move mostly at night, when the sky is black and wind whispers warnings through the rocks. You avoid settlements. Sleep in trees. Eat sparingly. The letter is wrapped in linen and oiled paper. The seal is red wax, stamped with a symbol you've never seen before. Not the dagger, not the eye. Just a circle with two breaks, like an incomplete wheel. It's Suda, and it's not for you to know. Your job is not to question. It's to carry, to deliver. But something about the letter feels heavier than parchment. On the 6th day, you're forced to take shelter in a ruined khan. The rain comes fast. A desert storm, sudden and brutal. You find a dry corner beneath a collapsed archway and wait, listening to water hammer the roof like stones. You sleep lightly, hand on the hilt of your knife, back against the wall. That night, you dream of home, not the mountain. Before, your brother Sep's voice, a field of wheat, your mother Sep's song. You wake in darkness, breathing hard, and for the first time in years, you wonder if there's still a way back to that life. You keep moving. 2 more days. You reach the outer paths of Mosul by dusk. The city is louder than you expect. Campfires outside the gates, refugees, merchants, too many men in armor. A siege is coming, or one has just passed. You enter as a trader. No blade, no emblem, just a bundle of folded cloth and a basket of dried figs, bought in a nearby village for a few silver coins. It's enough to look unimportant. You cross into the heart of the city. The streets are narrow, slick with mud. People move fast here, eyes low, voices clipped. The kind of place where silence buys safety. You find your contact on the 2nd night, a man with a limp, a red scarf. He waits by the eastern minaret and asks you for the time in Latin. You give the correct answer. He leads you through an alley, down 2 flights of stairs, and into a wine cellar that no longer smells of wine. You hand him the letter. He doesn't instead open it, just nods once, then turns his back. You leave. No words exchanged. Your part is done. But when you return to the Khan that night, the feeling doesn't leave you. Something is wrong. You were watched. You replay the walk back, the market corner, the broken fountain, the shadow that stayed too long beneath the awning. You sleep lightly. When you wake, it sips to the scent of smoke. The city is burning. Not the whole city, just the southern district, but it's enough. People scream, horses bolt, bells ring in a panic you can feel in your teeth. You run back to the cellar. The stairs are shattered. The man with the scarf is dead, stabbed through the throat. The letter is gone. You find the seal beside his body, broken. You don't go back to the gates. You vanish. Over the wall, using a rope you bought 3 days ago from a weaver who thought you were mute. You run for half a night, sleep in a dry riverbed, then double back the next day, not to the city, but to the ruins north of it, Roman stone, half buried in sand, a place you were told never to go. That sips where you find the second contact. You speak the phrase you weren't supposed to use. The wheel is cracked. He draws his knife. You draw yours. But neither of you strike, because he sees something in your eyes, and you see something in his. Recognition. not of face, of purpose. He listens to what happened. He spits into the dirt, then hands you a scroll, not sealed, but marked in red ink. You read it, and finally, you understand. The letter you carried wasn't said, just a message. It was bait. A trap. The Grand Master was testing more than your skill. He was testing the entire Western network. Someone failed. Someone betrayed. And now the order bleeds from the inside. You are told to ride east again, back toward the mountains. Not Alamut. Not yet. To another fortress. The sister stronghold, smaller. Hidden, one of the first built. There. You will meet someone you've only heard of in whispers. The architect. The one who writes the letters no one sees. The one whose name even the Grand Master speaks with caution. You leave that night, riding fast, not because you fear pursuit, but because the truth now burns hotter than your blade. The fortress is older than the others. No banners, no guards, just a stone path cut into the mountainside, and a silence so thick it hums in your ears. You arrive at dusk. No one meets you. You find the entrance half covered by ivy, the door set low into the rock. You knock once, then twice more. The pattern they gave you. The door creaks inward. A boy no older than 10 looks up at you, says nothing, just turns and walks away. You follow, through a narrow tunnel, then a low passage lit by glass lanterns filled with green flame. The air smells of wax and cedar oil. You count 6 turns, 2 descents, a final arch. You emerge into a chamber with no roof. The sky above is cut into a perfect square. The walls are high, lined with scrolls and weapons. A man sits cross-legged at the center. He is not what you expected. No robes, no sash. His tunic is plain, his hands ink-stained, his beard short, trimmed. But when he speaks, it feels like stone settling into place. You sir the one who carried the letter. You nod. You failed, he says. You say nothing. He stands. But you survived, and you learned why. That means you sir not useless. You unclasp your cloak. Place the broken seal on the stone between you. He doesn't pick it up, only looks at it. That seal was last used 15 years ago, he says, before you were recruited. Before Mosul mattered. You look up. He watches you for a long moment. We've been bleeding for a decade, he says, from inside. Not from kings or crusaders, from words, from doubt, from men who say they serve, but plant rot at the root. He walks to the wall, runs a finger along the edge of a scroll. They forget what the order is, he says. We are not a religion. We are not a kingdom. We are a question. And the question must always be sharp. He turns back, and now the blade is dull. You remain still. You are to return to Alamut, he says, not as a fighty, as a witness. You will see what we sit become. And if you survive that, you sit'll decide whether we deserve to continue. You speak, finally. What if the answer is no? He nods once. Then you still know what must be done. He gives you a small ring, black iron, unmarked. You shall show this only once, only to the Grand Master, and only when the time is right. You leave that night. No rest, no questions. The road back is longer than it should be. Not in distance, in weight. Every step feels heavier now, because you sir not just returning home. You set to returning with the authority to judge it. The path to Alamut cuts through forest, then cliffs, then bare stone. You arrive as the sun bleeds across the sky. The outer gates open. The guards recognize your face, but their eyes flick to your belt. No blade, no token. You are announced, but not saluted. Inside, the fortress has changed. Fewer men, more whispers, scrolls burned in the courtyard. A new group of recruits, younger than before. Too young. You, sir, given quarters in the lower wing. Alone. No one speaks to you. But at night, someone leaves food at your door. By the third day, you are summoned, not to the garden, to the upper chamber. The place only used for judgment. You've never seen it before. The room is circular. The walls are smooth. There are no windows. Only a single chair. The Grand Master sits beneath a hanging lamp. He sits thinner than you remember, older, but his eyes are sharp. He watches you enter, does not rise. You returned. You nod. They told me you would. He gestures to the floor. You kneel. Silence stretches. Then, you've seen the cracks, he says. Tell me how deep they go. You speak. Not long. Just the truth. What you carried. What you saw. The betrayal in Mosul. The death of the contact. The seal from 15 years ago. And the architect's words. You watch the Grand Master sip's hands. They do not move. When you finish, he closes his eyes. Everything rots. Given enough time, he says. He opens them again. But the blade can be reforged. You reach into your sleeve, draw the black ring, place it on the stone between you. He stares at it for a long time, then smiles, but there's no warmth in it. Even he still plays games. He says softly. He takes the ring, turns it in his palm, then looks at you. Do you believe the order can still serve its purpose? You don't answer immediately. You think of the man in Tyre, the merchant in Antioch, the boy you trained, the priest you watched, and didn't kill. Then you speak. Yes, you say, but not as it is. He nods slowly. Then help me change it. You don't kneel. You don't bow. You just stand. And for the first time, you see him not as a legend, but as a man, tired, determined, and ready to burn away everything that seeps hollow, including himself. That night, the fires are lit higher, not for punishment, for cleansing. Scrolls rewritten, names erased, new symbols drawn. You are given a new blade, curved, black, your mark, etched near the hilt. A single line, no rank, no title, just a reminder. You carry silence, and when needed, judgment. You are no longer what you were, not an initiate, not merely a blade. You are the observer now, and the mountain watches through your eyes. For 3 months, you stay within Alamut, but not as before. You walk the halls differently, not as a student, not as a servant, but as something else. Something people notice without understanding. They don't speak to you unless required. The younger recruits avoid your gaze. The instructors offer no correction. Even when you linger too long during drills or ask questions you once wouldn't dare, the Grand Master sends no further summons. He has passed the ring into your hands. The weight of that silence follows you. You learn what the Fidefeti have become. Some are still sharp, still patient, but others act without cause. One poisons a merchant's well in Shiraz because his cousin owed the order a favor. Another assassinates a minor noble in Ray, whose only crime was denying a bribe. When you question it, you are told. Orders are not debated. But you remember what the Grand Master said. Even rot can wear the robes of discipline. You begin to take notes, not on paper, that could be seized, copied, in memory. Faces, voices, moments when the order speaks of justice, but moves like power. You train alone each morning, not for strength, but to clear your mind. You run the path along the cliff's edge blindfolded. You practice balance on the thin beam above the western watchtower. You breathe only through your nose, slowing your pulse, learning to feel a room before you enter it. At night, you visit the library, not for strategy, for history. You read about the older cells, the ones that fell not to enemies, but to themselves. You read about the founders who once said, "A silent blade means nothing if wielded by a corrupted hand." One day, you're approached by someone you didn't expect. The boy you trained near Masyaf. He sets grown now, broader, confident, but his eyes are still clear. He finds you in the lower garden, watching the hawks. "Why did you leave that day?" he asks. You don't lie. "Because you flinched." He nods, then looks down. "I didn't flinch this time," he says quietly. You wait. He meets your eyes. "I was sent to kill a man in Isfahan. He was ready to die, begged for it, said he failed God, that he deserved judgment. And I let him go." You don't show anything on your face, but something shifts inside. You disobeyed. Yes. You look away. Good. You rise, walk past him. Don't stop. Don't look back. Because now you know you are not alone. Later that month, an envoy arrives from Qazvin. He wears red, carries news. A high-ranking vizier of the Seljuk court has called for the order's destruction. He has the ear of the Sultan and 10,000 soldiers. He knows your names. He knows your mountain. War is not a threat. It's coming. The council meets in the lower chamber. You sit near the edge. Not because you're excluded, because you want to watch their faces. Some demand immediate retaliation. Some suggest retreat. One speaks of surrender. The Grand Master says nothing for a long time. Then finally, we send a message. He looks at you. You already know what he means. The vizier must die. Not quietly, not in shadow, but where the court can see, where the Sultan cannot deny. The risk is immense. You nod once. The room falls silent. You're given what little they know. The vizier's habits, his guards, his diet, his enemies. You study the map for 2 days. Then you leave, alone. You ride through winter wind, across frozen stone and rain-choked rivers. You pass towns swollen with soldiers and cities where your face would draw a blade before a question. But you do not stop. You sleep in barns, in ruins. Once, in the open, beneath a tree whose leaves rattle like bones. You arrive in the capital just before the feast day. The vizier will appear publicly only once. In the mosque court, flanked by his guards, during the ceremony. It will be crowded, tight, chaotic, the perfect place to vanish, the perfect place to die. You spend 2 nights in the sewer tunnels beneath the district, then one more memorizing the path from the mosque gate to the water seller's corner, where the crowd thins. You dress as a crippled pilgrim. You carry a staff sharpened at the end, disguised with leather wrappings. You walk with a limp, not too much, just enough. The vizier arrives on schedule, tall, robed, surrounded by spears. The crowd bows. He raises his hand. You move with the wave of bodies, closer, then closer still. You time your breath. The moment he turns to address the people, when all eyes are on him, you strike. The staff slips forward, driving between the ribs, just beneath the edge of his armor. A clean thrust, a deep one. He gasps, tries to speak, but only blood rises. You drop the staff. Let the crowd carry you away. You remove the limp, melt into the panic, a faceless man in a sea of fear. By dusk, the vizier is dead, and the city has no answers. Only questions whispered behind closed doors. The blade was silent, but the message was not. You ride through the night. You return to Alamut. You find the Grand Master waiting. He doesn't ask how, only nods, then says, their army may still come. But now they will think twice. They know that even surrounded by guards, surrounded by walls, they are never safe. You don't yet reply. But you understand. You have become what they fear. Not because you kill. Because you choose when to. And the world is starting to wonder. When you settle choose again. The Sultan never sends his army. Not directly. Instead, he sends gold. To governors. To warlords. To mercenaries. Who owe him no allegiance, but plenty of fear. And slowly, the traps begin to close. Supply lines are disrupted. Messengers go missing. A fortress south of Tabriz is overrun in the night. Not by soldiers, but by its own captain, bribed 3 weeks before. The order begins to tighten. Meetings are held behind locked doors. Maps are redrawn. Names vanish from the ledgers. You are not asked to strike. Not this time. You are asked to listen. You travel under false names. A spice trader in Nishapur, a blind singer in Hamadan, a healer with no license in Ray. Each place gives you pieces. The Sultan's new advisor is young, cunning, raised in court, trained in rhetoric, and unlike his predecessor, he does not fear the mountain. He welcomes war. He believes the order weakens unity. He has a list, and your name is on it. But more importantly, so is the Grand Master sits. You return with the list, committed to memory. The council panics. One of the elders suggests splitting the order, fragmenting cells, burning archives, sending the younger Fidei into the mountains. But the Grand Master does not agree. We do not run, he says. We remind them why they built walls in the first place. He looks at you. We strike the head. This time, the target is not a vizier, not a merchant, not a warlord. It Sets, the advisor himself. He lives within the royal compound, never travels without guards, never eats food that hasn't Set been tasted, never sleeps in the same chamber twice in a row. A direct approach is suicide. The order proposes poison. You propose something else. A whisper, a false rumor, that a rival prince has paid the advisor to betray the Sultan. A letter planted. A servant bribed. A coin dropped in the wrong purse. No blade, no noise, only suggestion. You carry it out over 4 weeks. A trail of half-truths and forged scrolls, and overheard words dropped into the right ears. By the end of the month, the advisor is summoned to the palace in chains. He vanishes within a day. His name is never spoken again. And the Sultan, he issues no orders. Not against the mountain. Not against you. Sometimes fear is more useful than death. The Grand Master begins to write again. Not edicts, letters, to scholars, to leaders on both sides of the religious divide, to anyone who might remember the truth behind the blade, that the order is not just shadow and silence, but balance. You are asked to deliver one of these letters personally, not to a king, to a woman, a former mathematician who fled the courts of Baghdad years ago, and now teaches geometry to shepherd boys in the hills near Kermanshah. She receives you without surprise. You sit her late, she says. You hand her the letter. She reads it, then laughs. Still trying to save the world with knives and riddles, she folds it once, places it in her sleeve. Tell him no. You hesitate. Then she softens. But tell him I remember. You nod. As you turn to leave, she calls out, You know why you never flinch? You stop. She smiles faintly. Because you were never taught to ask if they deserved it. You don't stat answer. Because it's true. Because deep down, the question has started to form, and it doesn't stat go away. Back at Alamut, the Grand Master accepts her refusal without comment. But he looks older now, tired. The fire still burns in him, but only when he speaks of what the order might become, not what it is. You begin to see things differently. The cracks in the stone, the recruits too eager to draw blood, the letters that are never sent, only stored. One night, A messenger arrives with news. A fortress in the east has fallen, not by siege, by betrayal. Someone opened the gates. No survivors, not even the records. You are sent to find out who. It takes you 2 months, but you find him. A Fidei, not much older than the boy you trained. You track him through 3 cities. Find him in a tavern near the port of Basra, pretending to be a guard for hire. You sit beside him. Say nothing. He doesn't recognize you until you place a single token on the table. A black ring. His face changes. He starts to speak, but you shake your head, and he nods. He finishes his drink, stands, and follows you out. You lead him to a quiet spot near the docks. He kneels, not out of reverence, out of guilt. I thought they were going to save us, he says, but they were just another kind of chain. You ask him who paid him. He tells you, a name you know, a name from within the mountain. You ask him what he wants now. He says nothing, so you let him walk away, and when he turns his back, you do nothing. You watch him go, because maybe this time, mercy is the sharper blade. You return. You tell the Grand Master everything, even the name. He listens, then closes his eyes. He doesn't ask if you killed the traitor. He doesn't need to. He says only, we said are nearing the end of the pattern, and you know what that means. The order must break, or it must change, and the decision will not come by vote. It will come by blood. You don't sleep well anymore, not from fear, from knowing too much. You walk the halls of Alamut, and see it now, not as a stronghold, but as a mirror, stone and silence, and secrets behind every wall. The younger Fidei look at you with quiet reverence, or fear. You're not sure which. Either one is dangerous. They think you sitter the blade of the master, but the master hasn't given you an order in weeks. He speaks less now, eats less, sometimes disappears for whole days into the inner chamber where no one follows. You wonder if he sits already chosen a successor. You wonder if there sits anyone left worth choosing. The name you brought him, the traitor within, is never spoken again, but changes begin, small ones. One instructor removed, another replaced, new rotations, new restrictions. Old faces vanish from corridors where they used to linger. You see fewer messengers, fewer orders. Then, one night, you hear it, voices raised. In the Grand Master Sip's study, you don't mean to listen, but your path takes you near the lattice window, and his voice is unmistakable. Desev made us priests of death. Then another voice, sharp, angry. No, you did that. You taught them. Loyalty was worth more than judgment. Footsteps. A door slams. You stay hidden. Wait, then continue walking. As if you didn't hear the sound of your leader, questioning the very core of everything you've lived. Later, you stand alone on the eastern wall. The wind cuts cold across the ridge. You look down at the valley, the stone path winding away like a ribbon, and you think, what happens when the blade turns on the hand that forged it? The next day, you Sige summoned, but not to the Grand Master, to the chamber of the Archivist. A quiet man, thin, blind in one eye. He's been in the fortress since before your time, keeping records most forget exist. He hands you a scroll, doesn't explain, just says, it's time. You wait until you set her alone, then unroll it. It's sense not a mission, it's just a record. Your record, every assignment, every journey, every person you killed, even the ones you never reported, even the ones you spared. It's all there, written not in judgment, in clarity, and at the bottom, a question, written in the Grand Master Sip's hand. Would you follow you? You don't answer. You burn the scroll. But the question doesn't burn with it. It stays. You carry it with you into the next room, into the next day, into every corner of your breath. The answer, you realize, is still being written. One night, a bird arrives, a white falcon, a message tied to its leg. You recognize the seal. The architect steps. You haven't seen him in a year. Haven't heard his name in even longer. But the letter is short, just 2 lines. The end is near. Come see what follows. You leave Alamut before dawn. No one stops you, not even the guards at the gate. It feels like something unspoken has already passed between you all. The ride south takes 10 days. The fortress is abandoned, but the architect is waiting, not in a tower, in a tent, among the rocks where no map marks a road. He sets older. His beard now streaked white, but his voice is still iron. There sets no more time, he says. The Grand Master is dying. You nod. I thought so. Set'll try to name a successor, but the council is divided. Half want war, half want retreat. None want balance. He looks at you, but they settle follow the one the mountain trusts. You don't speak, because you already feel it. He sets not just informing you, he sets preparing you. They once step accept you easily, he says. Some fear your silence more than your blade. Then they sib learned well, you reply. He smiles, faintly. You talk through the night, not about strategy, about legacy. What the order meant, what it became, what it still could be. Before dawn, he hands you a final scroll. No orders, just names of those still loyal to the ideal. The true ideal. He looks tired, but calm. You still need them, he says. Because when the mountain breaks, you still have to rebuild it. You return to Alamut in silence. The sky is gray. The halls are quieter than before. The Grand Master lies in bed. He knows you have returned, but he doesn't rise. He just gestures to the seat beside him. You sit. Neither of you speaks for a long time. Then finally, you've seen what we are, he says. Tell me what we should be. You look at him. The man who raised you, trained you, molded you into something the world learned to fear. And you say, we should be what they hoped for, not what they became. He nods once, then, with effort, lifts something from the table beside his bed. A blade, simple, straight, no markings. It was mine, he says. Then he places it in your hand. It sets yours now. His last words are quiet. Cut what needs cutting. He dies that night. No ceremony, no bell, just silence. And the mountain exhales. Because it knows the blade has passed, and judgment is coming. The Grand Master is dead. Word spreads through Alamut, not by decree, but by the way men step more quietly, speak more softly. There is no funeral. There is no announcement, only the absence. You stand by the eastern parapet as the sun rises, watching the light strike the snow-dusted peaks in the distance. The blade he gave you rests at your side. You haven't drawn it. Not yet. The council convenes. 3 days of silence broken by voices raised too quickly. Names are spoken. Debts recalled. Old loyalties tested. You attend, but you do not speak. You let them play their hands. You watch who sits with whom, who listens, who whispers. By the 4th day, one man stands, Qadir ibn Sharif, a strategist, respected, feared. He speaks with conviction, with clarity, with venom. We must return to what worked, he says. Let the world remember why it feared us. No more letters, no more restraint. We rule through silence and terror. That is what the blade is for. Murmurs of agreement, a few nods. You step forward, and the room stills. You do not raise your voice. You do not speak like a leader. You speak like someone who has already decided. If we become monsters to slay monsters, you say, then we were never anything but knives sold to the highest fear. Silence. Then, slowly, from the edge of the room, the boy you trained stands. Now, a man. He says only, I follow him. Then another voice, the archivist. Then a third. A fourth. Not a wave, but enough. Kadir sees the balance shift, and like any tactician, he calculates, then nods, and sits, not out of respect, out of timing. The fortress breathes again. You are not named master. You do not take a title. You refuse the robe. You carry the blade, and that is enough. But the work is only beginning. You meet with the remaining strongholds. You travel more than you ever have, to rebuild what matters, to burn what does instead. Some resist. You let them walk away. Unless they sell the name, then they vanish, quietly, cleanly, not with cruelty, with necessity. You write new rules, simple ones. No killing without reason. No letters sealed without two eyes reading. No oaths without understanding. The order begins to shift. Some call you too soft. Some call you wise. You ignore both. You watch the new Fida Theti train in the sun. Not to kill, to wait, to listen, to decide. And for a moment, a brief fleeting moment, you feel peace. Then a scroll arrives, marked in black wax. You haven't seen that seal in years. The architect. You meet him again, this time in the north. The fortress at Rudkon, carved into the mountain mist. He looks older, tired, but alive. He doesn't waste words. There's Seps one left, he says. You already know. Kadir. He's Seps gone rogue. Left with a dozen men. Not assassins. Fanatics. He Seps building his own order. Not to protect balance, to control it. He Seps struck twice already. A noble Sip's child in Shiraz. A mystic in Samarkand. Both blamed on the mountain. Both denied by you. But the world doesn't care about your denial. It remembers the blade. And it blames the hand. You ride south. Alone. Not for war. For judgment. You find Kadir in an abandoned castle near the Persian Gulf. His followers wear white, but their eyes are wrong. Too bright. Too eager. You walk through the front gate. No disguise. Just silence. He meets you in the central hall. You do not embrace. You do not bow. You made us weak, he says. You made us hollow, you answer. He laughs. I made us feared. And now they fear everyone with a cause and a knife. He draws his blade. So do you. No words. No crowd. No ceremony. Only what must be done. You fight. And for the first time in years, you feel the full weight of everything that came before. The years, the lessons, the questions, and the answer. It ends quickly, cleanly, because you do not flinch. Not anymore. You bury him beneath the olive tree outside the courtyard. Not as an honor, as a warning. The blade must be tempered by purpose, or it breaks the hand that wields it. You return to Alamut. No parade, no feast, only nods, and a silence that now feels earned. You sit alone in the upper chamber, the same room where the Grand Master once asked you, tell me what we should be. You understand now. You are not the end of the order. You center its question, and the question never stops. The years pass, slowly at first, then all at once. You do not feel them as aging. You feel them in distance, from the blood, from the fire, from the boy you were. You no longer carry out missions. Others do that now, but they do it with different eyes, wiser, slower, because of what you taught them, because of what you chose not to become. You spend your mornings walking the ridge trail above the fortress. Your evenings in the library, sorting scrolls, copying forgotten languages, piecing together fragments of a truth older than the blade. You begin to see patterns. History doesn't change, only the names, only the reasons. The tools remain. A knife in silence, a word in shadow, and the question always lingers. Who gets to decide? One night, a recruit finds you. She sets young, not by years, by weight. She hasn't yet taken a life. She bows too deeply, speaks too quickly, but her eyes don't blink. There is something you should see, she says. You follow her through the northern hall, past the armory, down into the vault. She shows you a scroll, not one of yours, older, sealed with a mark that predates even Alamut. You unroll it carefully. It stains not a name, not a map. It's just a story, written in the same second-person voice you know all too well. You wake in a room not your own. The walls are stone, the air dry. You are young, but your hands already remember a blade. You read it once, then again. You recognize nothing and everything. You sit down slowly. The recruit watches you. Was this you? She asks. You shake your head. I don't know. But in your chest, something moves. You realize the story has been told before, not yours, but like yours, and it will be told again. You are not the first blade. You will not be the last. The mountain is older than memory, and what it protects is not truth, not justice, not fear. It protects the question, always the question. You place the scroll back in its case. Thank you, you tell her. She nods once, leaves without asking more. Later that night, you return to your chamber. You light a single lamp, unroll a clean sheet of parchment, and begin to write. Not a record, not an order, a story. For someone who will come after, someone you may never meet. You don't sign it. You don't seal it. You leave it on the shelf between two volumes of poetry. Then you step out into the cool night air. The mountain wind is strong. The stars are clear. You close your eyes and breathe it in. And for the first time in a very long time, you feel something like peace, because the blade is sharp, the silence is earned, and the question will go on.